turnout tonight in Drogheda. Colleagues, comrades, everyone here. It's great to be here with you this evening in Drogheda, and I want to thank Jed very much for the invitation. We've a really strong team here in the Drogheda area, as you've heard, with Councillor Michelle Hall, Mayor Michelle Hall, of course, Councillor P.O. Smith and Fiachra McRinal as well, and also in Meath with Councillor Elaine McGinty and with our brilliant local area reps like Eilish Balfe and Tracy McElhenney. And I hope that our great local representatives who've done so much work in this area will soon be joined by more new Labour candidates for Louth and Meath County Councils in the local elections next year. And today was particularly good because I got to spend so much time with Jed, with Michelle and Elaine and P.O. visited the Drogheda Centre run by the Alzheimer's Society to hear the great work they're doing, visited the Red Door with P.O. Here in Drogheda to hear about the brilliant work being done there, to meet your team there, P.O. And of course also had the opportunity to visit the Sonarta Ecology Centre this morning with Elaine, and to visit DKIT and to hear about all of the amazing work being done with students in Dundalk. So it's been a really great and positive day, and so good to see what's going on around the county, around Louth and in Meath as well. But I've also been travelling across Ireland since I became leader of the party, and I've been meeting at town hall meetings like this with local Labour members, with activists, with community groups, and with people across the country from different communities over many months now. And it's good again to see so many of you here, because I want to hear your views on how we can build an Ireland that works for all. And our Labour vision for Ireland is rooted in our social democratic and socialist values. We are, as Michelle has said, the party of the trade union movement. And that's historically our roots lie in that movement. And I'm a lifelong trade unionist myself. So we are passionate about trade unions, about workers' rights, and we're passionate about fighting for equality, for solidarity, and for fairness in society. Our country faces are immense. We're seeing record homelessness figures, over 3,400 children in homelessness. That's a disgrace. We're seeing a lack of homes being built, a lack of housing, chronic overcrowding in the health service, long waiting lists. And in the last week, bitter rows between Fine Gael and Sinn Féin over political donations and their failures to declare election spending. And yes, these issues are important. We've focused on holding office holders to account. Jed has been central to our calls for long-needed ethics reform. But we in Labour have not taken our eyes off the real challenges our country faces. So last week, when Sinn Féin were attacking Fine Gael and the Dáil over dodgy dealings and funny money, I was raising the CAM scandal, the utter scandal within our child and adolescent mental health services, where we see so many children let down by the system, deprived of the urgent medical attention they need. I also raised the deal that Coillte has apparently entered into with private investors, which may see a really enormous problem for us as we try to counter the climate catastrophe. In December, we had a very important moment in the Dáil when the office of Taoiseach was rotated for the first time. But we in the Labour Party voted against the Fine Gael nomination for Taoiseach, because we believed that the rotation did not represent anything but a cosmetic change at a time when we actually need real and substantial change in the policies and solutions proposed by government. This government is not delivering an Ireland that works for all. It's not delivering an Ireland of equality. And I might remind us, colleagues, that in 1919, more than 100 years ago, one of our party's founders, Tom Johnson, wrote in the democratic programme of the first Dáil, "It shall be the first duty of the government of the Republic to make provision for the physical, mental and spiritual well-being of the children, to secure that no child shall suffer hunger or cold from lack of food, clothing or shelter." Important words from over a century ago, yet nearly 250,000 children in Ireland today live in deprivation. And as I say, we learned just last week that there were 3,442 children homeless at Christmas. So we had the token measure of the new Taoiseach setting up a child poverty unit in his department, a welcome initiative, but not backed up with the spending measures needed to actually see us deliver real progress on ending child poverty. Colleagues, as a country, we've come through a once-in-a-century pandemic, and we saw the capacity of the state during that time to pivot and to deliver public services and radical change urgently. But sadly, since then, the momentum has been lost. The government has failed to seize that historic opportunity to refashion housing provision, to reframe social infrastructure, and to really reform and fix the health service at a time of strong budget surpluses when this could and should have been done. But instead, the opportunity to transform our country and our society has been sadly squandered. So now I believe, and we believe, that we need a radical vision to bring about a real change in our country. We've seen Russia's brutal war mean that tens of thousands of people have been killed in Ukraine. We've seen millions of refugees fleeing that brutal invasion of their country. And we in Ireland are playing our part in welcoming refugees. A civilised approach needed from government to ensure that adequate levels of accommodation are secured for those who come here seeking refuge. We've seen inflation ravaging incomes here. We've seen soaring energy and food prices. And inflation has hit those on low wages, those on pensions, and those on social protection the hardest. Colleagues, there are ominous signs of an economic slowdown, with job losses in the tech sector, the stalling of construction projects, and the slowing down of the building and delivery of new homes. Record heat waves across Europe last summer brought a stark reminder of the stalled progress the government has made on addressing the climate catastrophe. And we're seeing untenable delays by government on delivering renewable energy capacity and delivering the actions we need to meet our climate targets. In 2020, we were told that the government would invest in climate action and would deliver a new energy system for us. But since then, we've had constantly delayed climate action plans, countless strategy announcements, but far too many missed targets. No sign of the necessary reductions in emissions that we need to see delivered between now and our net zero target in 2050. The test of any government, comrades, is delivery. But across all measures, this government is failing. Homelessness is up. Healthcare waiting lists are up. Carbon emissions are up. Too many children do not have homes. Too many children with autism lack appropriate school places, or lack any school places in many cases. And too many people with disabilities do not have the supports they need to live independent lives. Too many parents are unable to find suitable childcare or early years education places. And too many workers remain on low pay or insecure pay, often stuck in traffic jams. And I know, huge issue in Drogheda, I've seen the traffic tonight, I know what it's like. Too many workers stuck in traffic jams without access to decent public transport alternative, remain deeply anxious about getting the necessary resources to heat their homes, to meet their bills, or to get the home care packages and the home care they so badly need. And Ireland remains far too dependent on fossil fuels, with the surging use of energy in data centres and a failure to build the offshore wind capacity that we've been promised for so long and which is so badly needed. So the failure of delivery by government on all these fronts is a wake-up call to all of us to provide for a constructive left-wing alternative. The erosion of standards in public office is a serious issue, but the larger parties have focused for too long in meaningless fights over dodgy donations. That's not my style of politics. I don't want to tear people down. I believe in respectful, civil debate in politics. I do want to hold people to account. And as I've said, we need to see the progress on the public sector standards bill that Labour developed 7 years ago, and which would have overhauled ethics legislation and delivered better standards in office. And we will continue to hold the government to account on that, as Jed has been doing so powerfully. But because we can't allow cynicism in politics, or whataboutery, or even threats and intimidation of those of us elected to public office. We can't allow this to deter us from the need to provide an agenda for the future, an agenda of hope and of optimism. Because we know that change is needed in Ireland, change that we can trust, real change. So I want to conclude with this message of hope for you, and to remind ourselves that the only electoral contest since the coalition was formed delivered a strong rebuke to the Punch and Judy politics of Fine Gael on the one hand versus Sinn Féin on the other. The Dublin Bay South by-election result in July 2021 showed the strong public appetite for a more constructive, positive and left-wing alternative to the status quo. It was a demand for strong state intervention on housing, on care, on climate and on jobs. And throughout the course of this Dáil, the Labour Party has and will continue to put forward constructive, social democratic and socialist alternative policies. We've worked to deliver change from opposition, and we will continue to work to outline our vision of an Ireland that works for all. We will offer constructive policies on a range of issues that matter to all of us, on housing, on healthcare and childcare, on climate and on jobs and work. On housing, our Renters' Rights Bill would have limited the grounds for eviction, protected tenants and frozen rents. Our bill to implement the Kenny report would have ended land speculation and hoarding. In childcare, we have championed the cause of student nurses, of community and healthcare workers, and we have called for a public universal childcare scheme. On climate, we've argued for radical measures, including a €9 per month public transport climate ticket and genuinely ambitious state action on emissions. On jobs and workers' rights, we've proposed legislation on sick pay, on a living wage, on a real right to flexible working and on pay rises for workers. On reform of our legislative system, we've called for a ban on gambling advertising, for reform of citizenship laws, for rights for cohabiting couples, and for a national autism strategy. And on economic policy, our fully costed budgets and cost of living measures would have put this country on a pathway to delivering a truly equal society. That is the sort of Ireland we in the Labour Party want to see, an Ireland that works for us all. And that is why, in the next election, whenever it may be, we will offer a clear vision, an alternative to both narrow nationalist populism on the one hand and right-wing orthodoxy and ideology on the other. We will offer a social democratic, socialist alternative to the Punch and Judy show, a show that may grab headlines but will not deliver real change. So comrades, I've always believed that social and economic rights and social and economic equality are two sides of the same coin, and that's why I joined the Labour Party more than 30 years ago now. Campaigning for economic justice, campaigning for social and economic rights, and struggling and seeking to help and support those who struggle to make ends meet. These are core to the vision and the values of our party. So today, as we see the failure of the market-knows-all policies of this government, we know the Labour Party values of equality, solidarity and fairness are needed now more than ever. So comrades, I hope you will work with me, with Jed, with Michelle, Elaine, Pio, all our representatives here, and walk with us on this journey. And I look forward to hearing your views tonight on how we can deliver that vision for change, that vision for equality. Thank you.